The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
All right, Dave, Adele, as you know, just put out a new album. It's called 25. Is that because she's 25 years old?
No idea.
Okay. I don't really know. But it's doing incredibly well, of course, because she is an international sensation, I guess you could say. It's fine, whatever. I'm not a fan. I guess I'm kind of neutral on Adele. I admit that she has a great voice, but I don't particularly like her music. But then again, there's far worse out there. So, of course, she is topping the charts all over the place. 7th week in a row, she's topping the Billboard chart here. I think that's pretty meaningless, but it means she's selling. There are 3 countries where that is not the case. And if you had to guess at these countries, I don't know if you've looked at this article.
I haven't. If I had to guess where Adele is not selling well, I wouldn't even know. I mean, I can think, okay, maybe societies where...
No, not let's of the developed and modern and societies that would I guess fit into the same category as the U.S. Okay. Developed societies.
Where is she not selling as well?
Yeah, we don't need to pick countries like Eritrea and Ethiopia and North Korea.
Okay, Italy?
No, but you're kind of in the same. They share a coastline.
France?
No, other direction.
Greece.
Yep. Okay.
Interesting.
Greece is one of them, and that is, I guess, because they just take their own music very seriously, and that is what is very popular over there. They also have a strange way of, or at least they did have a strange way of ranking these things. Like, it was the number of albums shipped instead of the number of albums sold, so that distributors could just flood the market with copies and get a number 1 album.
Right.
Okay, very strange. All right, let's continue. What else?
I have no idea. Belgium? I mean, I really don't know.
Okay, the other 2, one of them is South Korea. South Korea also very, very big on their own music. And then Japan.
I was not surprised when you said Japan after you said South Korea, because Japan and South Korea both have huge music scenes, and they have very particular types of music. You've got like the, what's it called in South Korea? J-pop?
K-pop.
K-pop, yeah. What's J-pop?
Probably Japanese pop.
Maybe. Anyway, yeah, I'm not surprised. They have such big music scenes, and it seems like, yeah, we assume in the U.S. that anything that's popular in the U.S. must obviously be popular in other countries, but those other countries have all their own stuff.
How often do you find yourself listening to music by bands outside the U.S.?
Well, I mean, British bands, I think, very, very common. I listen to a bunch of Argentinian music. I have a whole playlist of it on Spotify. I mean, it sounds very much like American music. It's just not. It's Argentinian music. There's a bunch of Israeli bands that I listen to. So I don't know. I mean, maybe more frequently than the average person, but still not that much. I mean, most of what I listen to is probably still British and American.
All right. In the metal world, I think, at least if you're into the heavy stuff, you are frequently listening to metal from Europe, Scandinavia.
Right. Norway.
Oh, yeah. Norway, good stuff. Finland, too. Sweden, too. It's all great.
And Finland does not... There's a controversy over whether Finland is part of Scandinavia, right? We mentioned this once before, and we got a bunch of feedback.
Yes. It seems that there are people on both sides of this argument. And is it a geographical argument? Is it a cultural argument? Nobody really knows.
Well, I'm sure some people know. Well, they have an idea.
Have their opinions.
Yeah.
Certainly, geographically, it would seem that Denmark should be included in Scandinavia, no?
I mean, I don't... Why do you say that?
I don't know. It's right there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not on the peninsula, but it is there, yeah.
Well, whatever. Is it really that important? It's a sovereign nation. They have their own music. They have their own states,
right.
Cities. They have their own food. They have their own people. They have their own bands.
They have everything.
And, yeah, I don't know. Do you like Adele?
I don't really listen to Adele. I mean, to the extent that her songs come on the radio station I'm listening to, I would get some exposure to them. but I wouldn't say I'm a fan.
So you like it when Adele exposes herself to you?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay. That's fine. I think that I've heard like one song off the new album, and it's the one that's played everywhere. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, but I'll probably feel the same way I feel about the first one.
Good.
And that
makes
is
me
I
feel
don't
better.
really care.
Yeah.
Okay. Another Islamic State story. First, I'll just mention that there was a bombing in Istanbul,
Right.
in the most densely populated tourist area. I believe something like 10 people were killed.
And reportedly, it was overwhelmingly Germans who were killed in the Istanbul attack, and the perpetrators are believed to have been Russian supporters of the Islamic State.
Okay. So that is fascinating. I was standing right there where that bomb went off. It is the part of the city where, the Blue Mosque is, the Hagia Sophia, and the Topkapi Palace. I mean, it's just crazy tourist site after crazy tourist site.
Yeah.
The whole area packed all the time with tourists. And, well, I suppose it was kind of the off season. And so had it been in the middle of the summer, things could have been far worse. And now there is an attack in Jakarta. This attack didn't go that well for the attackers. I think there were 7 people who were killed, and all but 2 of them were the attackers themselves. There was 1 tourist that was killed, 1 police officer, I believe, and it still took 3 hours to end this attack. I guess some of these guys blew themselves up, and with the intent of having there be collateral damage, or not really even collateral damage, of doing more damage than they
Right.
thought they would. The official statement is that ISIS was definitely behind this, and it seems to be true. This is starting to, I don't know, we're starting to see more attacks in more cities.
And as we see that, by the way, I do think we should stop saying ISIS, because ISIS refers specifically to Syria. So I think we should go in the direction of saying ISIL or just
Islamic
the
State.
Islamic State. Yeah. And then some people say we should say Daesh, which I'm open to as well, I guess. I feel like not enough people are familiar with that, where they might not know what we're talking about if we say that. It's starting to spread. We now are Jakarta, Istanbul, Paris. ISIS sympathies behind some acts here in the United States, although apparently no operational connection. I don't know what 2016 and 2017 hold as far as the fight against the Islamic State.
I guess the drama played out on the streets and on television screens, with at least 6 explosions and a gunfight in a movie theater. The low death toll pointed to the involvement of local militants whose weapons were rudimentary. All right, the president said that the nation and the people should not be scared and should not be defeated by acts of terror. I guess that's true. I just wonder, as this keeps happening, what the global response will be, and if the response from the Muslim world will continue to be different from everyone else. What happens when there's finally an attack or a bombing like this in Saudi Arabia? I don't know.
And as we've talked, that would be particularly confusing in a sense, because many of the sort of radical underpinnings of the Islamic State set of beliefs are shared in the Wahhabism of Saudi Arabia. And the Saudi Arabia Islamic State thing is an interesting thing. We've talked about it. I'm sure we'll continue to.
I believe they watch soccer in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And that's punishable by death, according to the Islamic State.
That's a problem.
So they better watch out,
Yeah.
because they are not quite on the same page. Okay, one more thing here. We talked about the arrest of El Chapo, the drug kingpin. I guess some people compare him to, he's like a modern day, what's his name? The old school Mexican.
Pablo Escobar. Colombian,
excuse me. Pablo Escobar. And he was busted, and it had something to do perhaps with Sean Penn's phone being tapped. And
Right.
Sean Penn meeting with him, unintentionally giving away his whereabouts. But anyway, the Marines show up, and initially, Guzman got away. There was a secret doorway hidden behind a mirror, descending into a sophisticated tunnel leading to the city's drains. I guess he was hiding there for a while. The other people in the house were kind of luring the Marines in, trying to make them think that he was still there.
Right.
And it seemed to have worked. It started raining, and the drains are not a good place to be when that starts happening.
I'll say.
So Guzman gets out of the drain about 1.5 kilometers away from wherever he was, stole a car at gunpoint. Imagine that. You're driving your car. El Chapo is right there with a gun saying, get out of your car.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This is like a movie. And, I guess I don't know what ensued after that, but eventually he was caught. It took the Marines 90 minutes to find the tunnel entrance. So he had a, hour and a half head start. Marines found another hole beneath a fridge, which proved to be a red herring. It could have just been something that was in the works. It was not what they were looking for. After his capture, he said, "My holidays are over." I think that's fair. Maybe not, though. He is in the same prison he broke out of after all.
Yeah, maybe he's gone already.
And that's pretty much it. I'm sure if we had all the details, it would play out just like a movie. Just fascinating stuff. This is actually how it goes down.
Incredible. And then people were talking on a lot of different shows about whether Sean Penn is a bad guy in all of this. And I don't really, Sean Penn is an actor. I agree with some of his political statements. I don't agree with some of his political statements. He was not. So on the one hand, if there was any sense at all that Sean Penn was going to coordinate with authorities, the interview with El Chapo never would have happened. So the idea that he should have just tipped off authorities deliberately is kind of a silly one. At the same time, it appears as though he did indirectly tip off authorities via the tapped phone calls that he was involved in. And then the other issue is, well, if you go and you interview El Chapo, who is a fugitive, is that different than going and interviewing Kim Jong-un, who he's not a fugitive in the same sense, but he's a guy that by all accounts has been responsible for countless deaths and people's misery and blah, blah, blah. Does anyone who is conducting an interview as a sort of media piece have a responsibility to involve authorities? I don't know. It's a complicated thing. I think the answer is no. I think if you say yes, you're sort of getting into dangerous ground with regard to freedom of the press, aren't you?
Agreed. Yeah, I think that would be unreasonable to ask reporters to do that. If once the interview is out there, the authorities, of course, are free to look at it.
Yeah.
They can question you. They can look at the footage and try to determine the whereabouts of this person. They can,
and as the interviewer, you can cooperate, or you can say, talk to my lawyer. I've done an interview and I'm not speaking, and talk to my lawyer. Right? Everybody sort of has the freedom to do whatever is allowed by law.
Yeah. In the case of someone like Kim Jong-un, I suppose if you ask Dennis Rodman, it's best just to be nice and drink the Kool-Aid, if you will.
So it would seem.
I think Rodman really did drink the Kool-Aid. I don't think Rodman had any clue what was going on in that country.
No.
I think they pulled the wool over his eyes, and he was probably just too drunk, too ignorant, and to even figure it out.
It was also amazing how Rodman took to calling him the marshal, like completely uncritically, just like, yeah, the marshal. He's the marshal.
Wow. Dennis Rodman, great athlete, even greater idiot, I would say. Anything to add to that?
Nothing else.
That's it.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.